Greetings, brothers and sisters. Okay, so this is an audio that's going to go in my Journey series 148, I believe. 148. And it's going back to the origin story, but also going to include this in sort of a follow-up audio video for the formerly known Exposing Dodgy Scam channel. It's now a backup channel. If you're listening to it there, it's there if it's on the Journey series. Either way. But I had some leftover thoughts that are, part of the Journey series. So I've been covering recently, maybe in my last audio in the Journey series, about how my original family, my original marriage and family, we attempted something that was a Sajmark research project that was based in teachings that were there in the literature that were, part of the Whispers of the Brighter World. And diving into those teachings and then applying them to our lives, which involved homesteading and homeschooling. It was a failed relationship and a failed marriage, and, the experiment was in some ways a failure, but information was gathered, right? There was valuable information because it was based in Sajmark teachings. There was a sincerity, at least on my part, about, diving into those teachings and applying them to my physical existence and, the prophecies and things that were there and all the rest of it. This message specifically, but so many of them. Tuesday, September 10th, 2002, 10 a.m. The time has come for human beings to seriously reflect on the ill effects of the industrial civilization that is destructive for the planet. There are many who utter cries of alarm which are not heard. The biggest polluters close their eyes on this aspect of things, seeing only profit and their well-lined bank accounts. Everything will stop by force of circumstance. Huge cataclysms will destroy what constitutes the industrial wealth of this century. This wealth does not benefit the poor countries, which are completely forgotten by the big owners of the world's capital. This also has to do with the UN and, Heartfulness's relationship with it. These comments are not politically oriented. Rather, we note an irrefutable fact that is serious for the future of humanity. Only the power of raging elements will be able to change the economic system. It will have to make a fresh and healthy start for the earth and for human beings by returning to basics and simplicity through a more human way of working. Human beings have lost their taste for effort. They have to relearn how to make use of their hands together with their minds. The rich will have lost everything, will become very poor, and the current poor will become even more destitute. The only ones to keep their treasure will be those who have nurtured it in their hearts, haloed with divine love, Babaji Maharaj. So there's so many teachings like this, but this is probably one of the better ones. It's just one of, hundreds of whispers about this. And the idea that there's going to be a collapse of the economic system, a collapse of the civilization as we now know it. It goes back to Babaji's My Vision, Reality at Dawn. It's been a part of the Sajmark teaching since the beginning. And this idea of working with your hands and also doing something based in the Sajmark teachings and principles, like setting up a lifestyle that's consistent with and, based in this energy and this consciousness. And my family and I attempted to do that, and there were some successes and some failures. It's a hard thing to do. But information was gathered, and important information. And there was a point where, we knew that to go forward, you need a community. You can't just do this as an individual person or as a family. The only way that you can have this kind of a lifestyle was a family, and I thought my family was the Sajmark Abhyasis. It turns out that wasn't true, right? Because, I was attempting to talk to people about this for years, and so it came to a point where we went to India, and we were going to have a meeting with Kamlesh and talk about these things and see if I just wanted a yes or no. Is there a future? Is there anything worthwhile pursuing in terms of doing this, doing some sort of a, Gurukulam type school, and which would involve nature and meditation, all these things that, like the families would be involved, like some kind of community village-based place where there would be a meditation hall and then all these activities, right? Which things that they're all embracing now, right? And growing food and understanding the idea of spiritual aspect of gardening, etheric gardening, which I'd done a lot of research, the Tulsi plant. I just talked about this in recent audio here on this journey series, but I'm reviewing this for the people watching this on the other channel. And so there was all that, and I just wanted an up or down answer. Was there any value to this information? And I talked to young people when I was in India who were interested in this, and also the truther things and understanding, what it meant by money power and the people within these conspiratorial, cabals out there that Babaji was talking about in whispers, which included the UN and all these, organizations. I mean, he didn't say that, but it does include them. And the mission joining with and Daji now embracing all these corporate and political and entertainment industry moguls, now in Heartfulness, right? We were in India, and I just wanted to put it out there and see if there was any sense of this moving forward. And there was just really not. There were a few people here or there, like young people, some people who were interested. Kamlesh was too stupid and too closed-minded and just too weak, and and he was embracing all these other things, the UN and all the things he's doing now. And so I got my answer, right? And there was an audience. So my YouTube channel took off, and there were people who weren't Abhyasis, at least then, some of them are now, who were interested in this research project and the information that I had to offer because of, going through and doing a research project, right? And those people have benefited from this or not. Some of them claiming they've, it's been transformational. Some of them have, they started Heartfulness and now have moved over to doing the Gratefulness, all these things. And then, of course, I was ostracized and things that happened later on in the organization. And I was, was relegated and became grateful and happy about that organization and the people in it not being a part of my, whatever it was, my connection, my family, whatever it is, extended family, these things. They weren't a part of my circle. And I was grateful for it because I'd seen all the drama and it was just, it sucks my energy away from me. Like I like doing what I'm doing and not dealing with all that crap that has nothing to do with, I guess there's cleaning involved. I guess that's the one benefit, but the rest, it's just a waste of energy. All the stuff that goes on organizationally, of course, what Daji's done with Heartfulness and the Brighter Mind scam and, disrespecting Chargy, all these things like that. It's just something that, there's no positive energy. There's nothing to move forward with that, right? There's, it's just watching something that you love get bastardized and get contaminated, right? Become impure. There were a variety of whispers messages, one in which Babaji talks about how Jesus handed over Christianity to him to take care, to the Sajmark system, but Babaji to steward it, to be in charge of it on a spiritual level. And then there was things about how Christianity had been distorted in all these various, all the things I talk about, all these various traditions being distorted from their original purpose. And this one, Tuesday, February 1st, 2000, 10 a.m. In these confidences, we will be able to express ourselves more freely in a more concise way. We won't have to consider the reactions of one another. The circle becomes a triangle, and we wish it to be so. We know that Christianity is a sensitive subject, particularly in old Europe, still steeped in its taboos, such that guilt will still reign supreme, creating deep troubles. A true spiritual approach is beyond this, and our way is about cleaning, liberating, and ensuring that your hearts open up to the beneficial rays of love. We ask you all to act in the right way for your own evolution and for the good of beings that come in contact with. We are not there to judge or to absolve or to make you feel guilty. We are not a religion and hope to never become one. That is why we fear for the future with this underline. This is why we fear for the future. Human beings like to innovate, and deviations would be harmful to the simplicity of our system. May you all be vigilant on this point, Babaji. And that's clearly happened with Daji and Heartfulness. And, it's underlined. This is what their fear is, that this will happen, and it's already happened. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if there's a contingency. I don't know. I've talked about this. But either way, there was this, this information that I had. I was created into being something by the Mark system. And it was clear that there was no connection with the organization. And then I was ostracized, which made it easier. And then the audience took off in my YouTube channel and these things. And then all the things that have unfolded. But then I find out about the Brighter Minds scam. And against my better judgment, I felt like I had to bring it back to the Abiasis. I was still friends with many of them on Facebook, but I had no relationship with the mission and those people and didn't want one. And I put it out there. I named Dodgy in some of the videos I made, the Journey series videos, and people had come to me, from the mission, all these things. You guys all know this story. And, the guy the doctor and these other people. And I felt like I had this information. I was receiving this information for a reason. I had a platform, and I put it out there. And, Kamlish, Dodgy watched my videos. A bunch of people, they were upset. People were telling me that there was calls for my execution in India, these things. And then there were people who were struggling with Dodgy, didn't like him. Some of them were prejudiced against him because of his caste and where he came from. Some of them, was just about the quality of his work. But both groups, even the ones who agreed with me, the people were freaked out by the Brighter Mind stuff. This guy, the Dodgy Truther, and his people. And, we had a shared view of the problem, which is, what happens in the truth community, which I already, which is a separate thing. But together, it's similar and it's connected. And what I've experienced with the truth community, we can all agree on the problem, but our solution and everything else, our orientation to it, is something else, right? Like the Dodgy Truther, for example, doesn't believe in the whispers messages. He thinks that's a scam, like for those things. And their orientation, these people who are struggling with Kamlish and Dodgy, and they're trying to use me, not the Dodgy Truther particularly, but these other people. Some of them who I'd never met, they made memes and they were making this a me versus Kamlish thing, which I didn't want. But either way, they didn't represent me or my purpose and my vision and what I'm doing here, what I'm supposed to be doing. We have different ideas of the solution, even to the extent of breaking free from Heartfulness and Dodgy and the corruption of the system and just doing, the original Mark system the way it was intended. And that really doesn't exist as far as I know. And other people might be doing it, but they haven't connected with me or told me about it. So the majority of people who are Abiasis, there's just nothing between me and them. We had, whatever relationships that were there when I was a part of when Chargy was here and I was a part of the organization. We don't have any relationships with them, and our path and our orientation to this whole thing are completely different, right? And I've covered this extensively. But this, the channel that I did and the videos I started to put out, I had to do this one more time, and I knew it was going to go the way it went, right? One of Chargy's teachings was, expect not and thou shalt not be disappointed, right? So don't have expectations. But my expectations were, kind of like what I knew was going to happen, and it did happen. I made these videos, and Abiasis didn't watch them, and maybe they'd watch, there's a lot of people watch my original Journey series videos, and they had all made their decisions already, but I felt like I had to put it out there. And one of the reasons was, to move forward with the Gratefulness meditation, there would need to be people who know how to pull off gatherings, and, there need to be some help with that. Or maybe not even call it, gratefulness, but just people who all wanted to do Sajmark the way it was and no longer believed in Dodgy. And if there were people like that, and some of the, older preceptors and, people who are doing gratefulness could have a more, they could go to preceptors' houses who aren't, aren't being blocked by the whatever Dodgy's doing, all those things, right? And I had to put it out there because, they might want to, some of those might be people who are struggling, and I know they are. They're all struggling a little bit with this. They kind of see a fall off in whatever way they're reconciling. And it was just there for me to do. I had the information I had to put out there. Of course, I got copyrighted by the Heartfulness YouTube channel and all those things. And that worked out to my benefit because I knew this was going to go the way it went. where two people contacted me and said they were grateful and the videos helped them, but that was about it. And there's nobody doing gratefulness meditation, or there's no real connection there. They're not going to homestead, the other truther stuff they're not interested in. And so, it went exactly like I thought. But there is, a sense of, I mean, it's always good to have just some closure. Like I had the information, I put it out there, and then it was, I offered something, just like when I went to the mission and told them about the UN and what people think about the UN. It was a different perspective, and it was rejected. And I mean, that was hurtful years ago, but now I'm just grateful because everything I know about the organization, all the things that they're doing now, they're things that I was doing years ago. And the etheric gardening would help them with their, they're growing food now in the ashrams, and they're starting to embrace some of these things, but I did it years ago, and there's things that I had to offer that they're not doing. But to deal with all the drama and all the egos and all the crap, like I'm not into it. Like I just can't do that. Like I just like to do the work. I got all that I could do just to make content here every day. I've made that clear on my YouTube channel. Keep me out of the drama. Keep me out of all these things. I'm just not into it. I'm like, okay, I don't, it's a waste of energy that does nothing, right? I mean, you can make a case that there's cleaning involved, but you can get cleaned out either way without having to indulge in it. And so, that's what has been my sort of, some of the rules I've created for myself. Just don't pick up the rope, right? When people want to have a tug of war or whatever, like I just don't want to, I can't do that. It's just a waste of energy that has you're never going to convince people. And we all know that who are truthers, that you've talked to your relatives and you bring information that's pretty much to you a slam dunk and they don't see it. And so, like, it's the same thing I've dealt with over and over with the Sajmark system, and now, of course, with the heartfulness debacle. But, it is, the door has closed in a sense because what we can do with the gratefulness meditation is limited to people who've never experienced a gathering. And I'm not the kind of person that could pull a gathering off, and I don't have any interest in doing that, right? Like, I just don't. And, the other things that are available, face-to-face sittings and, literature and things, I mean, those things still exist to some extent. You can find the books and things. And I've made a comprehensive set of videos where people can find access to all those things. But, it's limited. Like, people who are doing gratefulness don't have nearly the amount of resources that I had when I started doing Sajmark years ago. A quality master, a real spiritual master in charge, quality preceptors, literature, infrastructure, ashrams, gatherings. And without those things, your experience might be, I mean, things that might change now in the time where you can experience things through the internet at home, right? And so, it is what it is, right? It's still there. The transmission and cleaning is still there in its purest form, but everything else is not, like what it used to be. And so you understand this in terms of this channel here, and then also the Journey series. Like for me, like it's a known entity. Like the people that do the Sajmark system, wonderful people, many of them saintly people who I really, see. I mean, just some of the best people. There is that. But in terms of adapting to these changes and, being free thinkers and being, critical thinkers and being able to do what's needful, they just can't do it. And like seeing the writing on the wall and accepting it and changing and doing these things and changing your lifestyle and embracing these predictions and these, just everything we see happening in the world. A couple of years is the big event that's supposed to happen, the first of many in the Whispers prophecies, and they're just sitting on their hands, right? I mean, some of them are doing things within the ashram confines and the organization, but they've allowed the organization to be corrupted and dodgy to, run this brighter mind scam. The dodgy truther sent me stuff, and I'm just over it. Like, I'm not interested. I think he said something about Dodgy going to the UN in Europe. Someone else said he's coming to America in Molina. I don't know. And I don't care. None of those things are important. But he's pushing the brighter minds to the next level. And, like it's not my problem anymore, right? It's their problem. And it'll play out whatever way it plays out. And, either way, it doesn't, help what I'm doing here or what we're doing here. And so in terms of the organization, like I've known for a while, that, I have, has, and the people in it, these people, they're not my people. They're not my family. They're not the people I'm going to move forward with, even though we all, you know, appreciate the Sajmark. We love the Sajmark system, and we're grateful for it, or whatever it is. I mean, maybe they don't love it as much as, the purity of it, at least, right? Because they've let it be contaminated by dodgy, stuff that deviates from the system. But either way, they're not my people, right? And, like, I just got to move forward with my spiritual journey and the direction it's taken me. And, they're not of my concern, right? And so that's why the channel's changed. And, I put it out there because I had to. And there was an opportunity there. And, maybe I could have been pleasantly surprised. But of course I wasn't. But anyways, I just thought I would, there's little bit more of the resolution and understanding here. But there, I don't want to say it's disappointing because I knew it was going to happen. But a door has closed, right? And it's limited what gratefulness is going to be in the future because, Charji had trained and created a system of gatherings and, ashrams and all these things that really help, that are really necessary. And now they're being, brought to the dark side by the heartfulness, cult religious stuff that's going on there. And, and for the rest of us, it's, we're shit out of luck, right? In terms of all that. But still, the transmission and cleaning are still flowing, and, we just have to be better. And I've talked about that before. People have to do more because the organization isn't there to help them. And really, it's the master isn't there doing. The master did too much, I think, for people. The three masters. And people didn't do their part. And now people have to, do their part to connect, and they have to work at it, and that's a good thing. Anyways, I just want to add those things here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paramount, definitely pouring from the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.